Hi, I'm Veli from Greenwood Solutions. Solar export tariffs is what we're talking about today. They're about to change, or they have changed. Actually, they change at the end of May 2021. So how does that affect your ability to design a commercial solar system and present it as a financially viable option for your customer? Now, if you like what you see, hit that subscription button. It allows us to continue to make these videos. Let's get stuck into it. Solar export tariffs are go. Now, at the moment, currently any excess solar that is allowed to be sent to the grid has some value, and at this point in time is stipulated by the Essential Services Commission. So we're talking Australia at the moment. This rate is 10.2 cents per kilowatt hour, and it's based on a single rate feed-in tariff as of May 2021. There are single rate and time varying feed-in tariffs, and they don't just apply to solar, they also apply to hydro, wind, and also biomass. So what you'll see is some pretty strange times of the day outside solar production hours, but that does account for those other renewable energy inputs. Since 2018-19, the Essential Services Commission have set both a single rate minimum feed-in tariff and a time varying minimum feed-in tariff. The time varying minimum feed-in tariff is a peak, shoulder and off-peak structure. It was intended to reflect the underlying value of the electricity, which is based on a wholesale electricity market in which prices change every 30 minutes and tend to be higher at times of peak electricity demand. Yeah, classic demand and supply. So you can see on this particular table, we have, and we'll look at 2020 to 21, the peak was 12.5 cents per kilowatt hour, the shoulder was 9.8 cents per kilowatt hour, and off-peak was 9.1 cents per kilowatt hour. This is a minimum feed-in tariff on a single rate. Now this table shows time varying minimum feed-in tariff. So you can see the times: weekdays 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. and weekends 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. That's off-peak, 9.1 cents. And the shoulder, you can see that time there, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the weekdays. And then you've got peak. You got weekdays 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. So shoulder was 9.8 cents and peak was 12.5. I remember the good old days when John Howard was around. And when I say good old days, John Howard, I mean from a solar perspective. The feed-in tariff back then was 66 cents per kilowatt hour. So the strategy, the total energy management strategy adopted by CSC installers and designers was to actually minimise the loads during solar production hours to maximise the export to the grid. So there was a lot of strategies that we were suggesting that customers could do, because they were paying about 20, 25 cents per kilowatt hour depending, but they were actually getting 66 cents per kilowatt hour to feed solar out to the grid. So one of the questions to ask is, how much does a change in export tariff affect the savings with a commercial solar system up to 100 kilowatt? The current minimum feed-in tariff is valid until June the 30, 2021. So what happens then? So does the company offering commercial solar as a financial proposition have to factor in changes in feed-in tariffs, as well as all the other factors that you have to go through when you're constructing a formal proposal? So let's have a look at a couple of scenarios. Scenario one, it's a 100 kilowatt system installed in Victoria, Australia, north facing at 10.5 degrees tilt, and you have an electricity price of 25 cents per kilowatt hour. We look at the savings in the first year with differing export tariff prices and load percentages being consumed. Now this table, there's a lot of numbers, but let's concentrate on the ones that have a red circle around. Now look at the 40. That is the percentage of total loads that are being serviced by the solar. Now at 10 cents feed-in tariff, so you've got 60% going out to the grid. So at 10 cents feed-in tariff, it's $20,753. At 7 cents, it's $18,218. So what's happening here is obviously at this percentage of total loads going out to the grid, there's a fairly big discrepancy when you start to lower the feed-in tariff from 10 cents to 7 cents. So you can see at the 80%, so that's 80% of all the loads are being serviced by solar, and 20% of the excess is going out to the grid, the difference is $835. So obviously there is a correlation between the amount of load being serviced by solar. So the higher that percentage, the smaller the difference is between those two feed-in tariffs. It obviously plays a role. There's still a difference of $835 between 7 cents and 10 cents, but it's less of an issue than, say, a system that's been designed for only 40% of the loads being serviced by the solar and 60% going out to the grid. It sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Now, in this situation, I've broken down the differences between 10 cents per kilowatt hour and a range of other prices. So from 7 cents a kilowatt hour feed-in tariff all the way down to 2 cents. And this may indeed happen in the future. So what about after 10 years? What are the differences? So again, 40% of the loads are being serviced by the solar and 60% of that solar is going out to the grid. The difference between 7 cents and 10 cents is $28,000. If you go to 90%, the difference obviously is a lot less. It's only $4,747. When you're looking at payback periods or return on investment or net present value with a commercial solar system, you have to take into consideration factors such as rising electricity prices, now a change in the feed-in tariff, also panel degradation, which we've covered in an earlier presentation. We have to make assumptions there. And of course, maintenance on the system. All commercial solar systems should have a maintenance schedule. And of course, the cost of that will increase year after year. We make assumptions based on that. In this table, we go back to the comparison between 10 cents per kilowatt hour and a range from 2 cents to 7 cents. So this is a feed-in tariff situation. And you can see after 10 years, if it's at 2 cents, the difference is absolutely huge. Between 10 cents, it's $75,000, and that's for a 40% loads being serviced by the solar. Now, obviously, the more solar production that directly services the load, the less that goes out to the grid, and the smaller the effect of a reduction in feed-in tariffs, and we've established that. So as time goes on, systems will be designed with reducing amounts of solar production going out to the grid, unless there is a battery storage component involved. So that's a further complexity. And we do cover that in one of our other presentations. Conclusion. Solar export tariffs are reducing. A commercial solar system is offered as a financial proposition, and design must take into consideration load profile, existing electricity. Designs must take into consideration load profile, existing electricity prices and export tariffs. Thanks so much for watching our presentation on solar feed-in tariffs. I'm Veli from Greenwood Solutions. If you like what you see, hit that subscription button, tell your installer mates and anyone interested in renewable energy, and that'll allow us to continue to make these videos. Bye for now, looking forward to producing more.